The night air over Cape Town felt like magic as Zuri Mbatha stepped onto the rooftop terrace, her silver gown catching every sparkle of the city lights. The ocean shimmered below, waves whispering against the shore while soft jazz floated through the warm evening. At 29, Zuri had built her own tech company from scratch, and tonight she was celebrating the reward of years of sleepless nights and hard work, her engagement to Tane Cube. The venue glowed with candles and fairy lights she had personally paid for, every flower and crystal centerpiece funded by the $60,000 wedding fund she saved without a single cent of family help. Guests gasped at the view and at the dazzling diamond ring on her hand, a ring that gleamed like the future she had fought for. Tay stood proudly beside her, his eyes following her every move with a warmth that made Zuri's heart race. Friends raised glasses, snapping photos and calling her name, but Zuri stayed grounded, remembering the years when she worked late in small cafes just to make rent. Tonight, every sacrifice felt worth it. Yet across the room, her younger sister Ayanda lingered near the champagne table, wearing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She watched Zuri with a tilt of the head, as if holding a secret. Zuri noticed the look but pushed it aside, choosing laughter and love over suspicion. For now, the night was hers, a glittering beginning to the life she had built with her own hands. Music and laughter filled the rooftop as the party reached its peak, but Zuri barely noticed when her mother, Lillian, touched her arm and whispered, "Come with me, just for a minute." Her mother's voice carried a sweetness that felt forced. Before Zuri could ask why, Lillian was already leading her toward a quiet corner behind a row of glowing lanterns. Ayanda followed close behind, her eyes sharp and unreadable. The night breeze carried the scent of ocean salt and roses, but Zuri's stomach tightened. Something about the way they moved, fast, almost urgent, made her heart beat faster. When they stopped, Lillian didn't waste a second. "Zuri," she began, her tone soft but heavy, "you need to do the right thing. Your sister must have her wedding first. Give Ayanda your wedding money so she can start planning." Zuri blinked, certain she had misheard. "What? The $60,000 you saved," Lillian said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "It's only fair. Ayanda is younger, and in our family it's bad luck for a younger sister to marry late. People will talk. You're already older. Let her have her chance before it's too late." Ayanda crossed her arms and tilted her head, a faint smirk playing at her lips. "It's just money, Zuri. You can save again. You know Mom is right." The words hit Zuri like cold rain. She had spent years building her company, working nights, skipping vacations, and sacrificing friendships to save that money. Every rand represented missed birthdays and sleepless nights. Her chest tightened as she looked from her mother to her sister. "This is my wedding fund," she said quietly. "I worked for it. I supported this family for years. Why would you even ask me to give it away?" Lillian's smile disappeared. Her voice hardened, low but sharp enough to cut through the music. "Because family comes first. 'Cause we raised you to share. Do you want your sister to be cursed with bad luck? Do you want relatives whispering that you ruined her life?" Zuri stepped back, shaking her head. "That's not my responsibility. Ayanda can plan her wedding when she's ready, just like I did. I'm not giving up my savings." The tension crackled like static electricity. Nearby guests began to glance their way, sensing the shift in energy even over the music. Ayanda's smirk deepened, as if daring Zuri to keep resisting. Lillian's eyes flashed with frustration, her perfectly painted nails digging into her clutch. "Think carefully," Lillian hissed, her voice trembling with anger now. "This family's reputation is at stake." Zuri held her ground, her heart pounding loud enough to drown out the music. She could feel the weight of years of silent sacrifices pressing against her chest, but for the first time she refused to bend. Around them, curious guests began to whisper, phones quietly lifting to record the storm that was about to break. The soft music and clinking of champagne glasses could no longer hide the storm brewing in the corner of the rooftop. Zuri stood tall, her fingers trembling slightly as she faced her mother and sister. "I'm not giving Ayanda my wedding money," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I saved every rand myself. I built my company while supporting this family for years. That money is for my wedding, not anyone else's." Lillian's eyes widened, her perfectly drawn brows knitting together. "Supporting this family," she snapped, her voice rising high enough for nearby guests to hear. "You think that gives you the right to be selfish? We raised you, we gave you everything, and now you can't even help your sister. What kind of daughter are you?" Zuri felt the weight of dozens of eyes turning toward them. Conversations softened, music seemed to fade, and even the salty ocean breeze went still. She kept her voice steady, though her heart pounded hard enough to shake her. "This isn't about being selfish. I worked for this. Every late night, every sacrifice, every rand came from me. I am not giving it away just because of some superstition." Ayanda shifted beside their mother, lips curling into a half-smile as if enjoying the spectacle. Lillian's face flushed deep red. "Superstition," she barked. "It is tradition. You will not shame this family because of your pride." Her words cut through the rooftop like a knife, and guests began pulling out their phones, sensing something dramatic was unfolding. Zuri shook her head slowly. "I will not let anyone guilt me into giving up my future. Not even you, Mom." Something inside Lillian seemed to snap. Her eyes blazed with a fury Zuri had never seen before. Without warning, she raised her hand and crack, the sound of the slap sliced through the night air. Zuri's head jerked to the side, her cheek exploding with heat and pain. Gasps erupted from the crowd. A glass shattered somewhere behind them. For a moment time froze. The music stopped completely. Dozens of guests stood frozen with wide eyes and phones held high, cameras capturing every detail of the shocking scene. Tay, who had been across the terrace greeting friends, rushed forward in disbelief. "Zuri!" he shouted, pushing through the stunned crowd. Zuri straightened slowly, her cheek throbbing, tears stinging the corners of her eyes, but she refused to cry. Her silver gown shimmered under the rooftop lights as she turned to face her mother, her voice quiet but steady. "You didn't just slap me," she said, her words trembling with hurt and power. "You slapped every sacrifice I ever made for this family." The silence was deafening. Lillian's chest heaved, her hand still frozen in midair. Around them, guests whispered furiously, phones recording, hashtags already forming in the minds of those watching. The night that began with love and celebration had turned into a public battlefield, and the world was already witnessing every second. The rooftop felt like it was closing in on her. Zuri could still hear the echo of the slap ringing in her ears as dozens of eyes burned into her back. Her cheek pulsed with a sharp, hot sting, but the pain in her chest was worse. She turned and pushed through the stunned crowd, ignoring the whispers and the glow of camera flashes. Her silver gown brushed against chairs and champagne glasses as she moved, but she didn't stop. The ocean breeze that once felt like magic now felt cold and cruel. By the time she reached the elevator, her breath was coming in shallow gasps. The doors opened to the ground floor and a rush of damp night air greeted her. Outside, the parking lot glistened under sudden rain. Drops clung to her hair and streaked down her makeup, mixing with the tears she hadn't wanted to shed. Her heels clicked against the wet pavement as she staggered toward her car, the shimmering dress now heavy and soaked through. "Zuri!" Tay's voice cut through the sound of the rain. She turned to see him running after her, his suit jacket already speckled with water. He caught up and gently touched her arm. "Baby, wait, please." Zuri shook her head, her chest heaving. "She slapped me, Tay. My own mother, at my engagement party. In front of everyone." Her voice cracked, breaking the wall of strength she had tried to hold. "I worked so hard for this night. I paid for every single thing. And she humiliated me like I'm nothing." Tay cupped her wet face with his hands, his eyes soft but blazing with anger. "You are everything, Zuri. None of this is your fault." She was wrong. Everyone saw it. Zuri pressed her forehead against his chest, the rain soaking them both. "I don't even care about the videos," she whispered, though she knew deep down it was a lie. She had already noticed guests lifting their phones before she fled. Every second of the slap was probably online by now, spreading faster than she could breathe. Across the city, strangers were already hitting post. Clips of the shocking moment appeared on Instagram stories and Twitter feeds before Zuri even left the parking lot. By the time Tay helped her into his car, Hashtags like hashtag slap at the engagement, hashtag Team Zuri, and hashtag family over money were climbing the trending charts. Influencers were reposting, adding captions like "No tradition is worth this," and "Respect the woman who built her own empire." Zuri leaned back against the seat, staring at the raindrops racing down the window. Her cheeks still burned, but her heart hurt more. The night that was supposed to mark a beautiful beginning now felt like a wound broadcast to the entire country. Somewhere inside, anger began to rise. Not the kind that destroys, but the kind that refuses to stay silent. By morning, Zuri's private nightmare had turned into a public storm. The slap was everywhere. Instagram reels, TikTok stitches, WhatsApp groups, and endless Twitter threads. Every angle of the rooftop moment had been caught: the sharp crack of Lillian's hand against Zuri's cheek, the stunned silence of the guests, the way Zuri stood tall even as her eyes filled with pain. Millions of people replayed it in slow motion, pausing on Zuri's shocked face, sharing it with captions like, "This is not tradition. This is abuse." Twitter exploded first. Hashtag slap at the engagement shot to the #1 trending spot in South Africa before sunrise and spread to other African countries within hours. Strangers flooded Zuri's profile with messages of support, calling her a queen, a fighter, and proof that self-made women deserve respect. Young women tweeted their own stories of parents demanding their savings or treating them as financial lifelines. "Zuri, you are not alone," one post read. Another simply said, "Tradition is not an excuse for cruelty." Influencers quickly joined the conversation. Popular lifestyle bloggers posted videos dissecting the moment, debating the toxic mix of culture and entitlement. Finance coaches applauded Zuri for protecting her hard-earned money. Feminist voices across the continent used the hashtag #MyMoneyMyChoice to spark conversations about financial independence and family pressure. Even celebrities quietly liked and retweeted the clip, adding fuel to the viral fire. Meanwhile, Lillian stayed silent, but Ayanda tried to twist the story. Late that afternoon, she posted a carefully lit video on Instagram, her makeup flawless, her tone sugar-sweet. "People don't know the full story," she said, tilting her head with fake sadness. "Zuri is sitting on so much money while the rest of us struggle. My mom only wanted fairness. But Zuri, she hoards wealth. She doesn't share." The internet was not buying it. Within minutes, comments flooded Ayanda's page. "Fairness is earning your own wedding," one user snapped. "Zuri built her company while you partied," wrote another. Screenshots of Zuri's past posts showing late nights in the office and her humble beginnings went viral again, proving she had worked for every cent. Someone even dug up Ayanda's vacation photos from the past year, using them as proof she wasn't struggling at all. By evening, Ayanda's video was drowned out by a tidal wave of support for Zuri. Memes flooded social feeds. One showed Zuri's sparkling ring with a caption, "Paid in full by hustle, not guilt." Another showed a still of Lillian mid-slap with the words, "Tradition ends here." News outlets picked up the story, framing it as a national debate about women, money, and respect. Zuri stayed silent through it all, watching the chaos unfold from her apartment window. Her cheeks still ached, but the world's response felt like a bomb. What was meant to shame her had instead turned her into a symbol, a woman who refused to let family or tradition steal the life she built with her own two hands. The morning after the storm felt heavy and unreal. Zuri woke to a buzzing phone and the dull ache in her cheek, a painful reminder of the night before. Sunlight slipped through the curtains of her Cape Town apartment, but it did little to warm the knot in her chest. Notifications flooded her screen, thousands of messages, trending hashtags, requests for interviews, but one unknown number stood out. After a deep breath, she answered. "Good morning, Ms. Mbatha," a calm voice said. "This is Mr. Daniels from the law offices of Kumalo and Partners. I represent your late grandmother, Mrs. Thandai Mbatha. I need to speak with you about a trust fund she left in your name. It has recently matured." Zuri sat up, heart racing. "A trust fund? I don't understand. My grandmother passed years ago." "Yes," the lawyer continued gently, "but she left specific instructions to contact you on this date. The fund is substantial, far greater than an average inheritance. Could you come to my office today to review the documents?" Still stunned, Zuri agreed and spent the next hour getting ready, her mind spinning. Her grandmother, Mama Thandile, had always been a quiet force in her life, wise, protective, and endlessly kind. As a child, Zuri remembered afternoons spent in Mama's garden, where she whispered lessons about self-worth and the courage to stand alone if necessary. Could it be that even after death, Mama was still protecting her? At the law office, Mr. Daniels slid a thick envelope across the polished desk. Inside was a letter written in her grandmother's elegant handwriting. Zuri's hands trembled as she unfolded the paper. "My dearest Zuri," the letter began, "I have watched you grow into a woman of courage and grace. I know our family can be demanding, and I feared they would one day try to take what you worked so hard to earn. This trust is my way of making sure they cannot. The money inside is more than enough for your dreams, your wedding, your business, your future. Never let guilt or tradition steal your happiness. Your life belongs to you and you alone. Love always, Mama." Tears blurred Zuri's vision as she read every word, her grandmother's voice echoing in her heart. Mr. Daniels explained that the trust had quietly gained value for years and was now worth several times the $60,000 she had saved for her wedding. It was a life-changing amount, secured in a way no one could touch, not even her mother. Zuri pressed the letter to her chest, overwhelmed with gratitude and a deep, bittersweet ache. Mama had known. Somehow, she had known this day would come, and she had left behind not just money, but a message of love and freedom. As Zuri walked out of the office into the bright Cape Town sunshine, the weight of the previous night began to lift. What her mother tried to take, her grandmother had already made impossible. The drive to Stellenbosch was quiet but charged, the late afternoon sky glowing gold over the vineyards. Zuri gripped the envelope of trust fund documents in her lap, her grandmother's letter tucked safely inside. Every mile brought back memories of childhood visits to the family home, long dinners, soft laughter, and Mama Thandile's gentle voice reminding her to stand tall. Today those memories felt like armor. She wasn't arriving as the daughter who always sacrificed. She was coming as the woman who finally held the power. When Zuri pulled into the driveway, the house looked the same. White walls, flowering bougainvillea, the smell of roasted chicken drifting from the kitchen, but the air felt different. Lillian opened the door before Zuri could knock, her expression a mix of pride and irritation. Ayanda stood behind her, phone in hand, eyes darting with a flicker of guilt. "So you finally decided to face us," Lillian said, crossing her arms. "I hope you've come to your senses. The entire family is embarrassed. You made a spectacle of yourself and of me." Zuri stepped inside, calm but unshaken. "The only spectacle was you slapping me in front of hundreds of people," she said quietly. "But I'm not here to argue about last night. I'm here to end this." Lillian's eyes narrowed. "End what?" "Zuri, you need to understand what I asked of you is tradition. In our culture, the younger sister must marry first. People will talk. A mother only wants to protect her family's reputation." Zuri set the envelope on the table with deliberate care. "This is why I came," she said, sliding the trust fund papers toward her mother. "Grandma left me a trust that matured this week. It's worth more than anything I've ever saved. It's protected by law. You can't touch it. No one can." Ayanda leaned forward, eyes widening. "What? Grandma left you money?" "Yes," Zuri replied, meeting her sister's gaze. "Because she knew what might happen. She warned me in her letter, never let guilt or tradition rob me of happiness. And I won't. Not anymore." Lillian's face paled, her confidence cracking. "Your grandmother didn't understand." "No," Zuri interrupted, her voice rising for the first time. "Grandma understood perfectly. She saw this coming. She knew you'd try to control me with shame. But I'm done letting anyone use culture to hurt me. I built my life. I built my company. I will marry when and how I choose. And my money stays mine." The room fell silent except for the ticking of the old wall clock. Ayanda lowered her phone, her smirk gone, replaced by something closer to regret. Lillian opened her mouth, but no words came. Zuri straightened, her grandmother's letter still in her hand like a shield. "This conversation is over," she said firmly. "From now on, my boundaries are not a debate. As Zuri turned to leave, the evening sun poured through the doorway, lighting her path. For the first time, the power in the family home belonged entirely to her. 2 days after the confrontation in Stellenbosch, Zuri sat in her sunlit Cape Town apartment with her phone propped on a small tripod. She had avoided interviews, turned down TV requests, and stayed silent while the internet argued about her life. But now, staring into the tiny camera, she knew it was time to speak in her own words. She took a deep breath, smoothing her hair back, and pressed record. "Hi everyone," she began softly, her voice steady but warm. "Many of you have seen the video of what happened at my engagement party. It was painful and humiliating, but I'm not here to attack my family. I'm here to talk about something bigger: self-worth, independence, and the pressure we face from traditions that sometimes hurt more than they help." She paused, her eyes shining with quiet strength. "I worked for years to save for my wedding. I built a company from nothing. And yet, on one of the happiest nights of my life, I was told that my money, my effort, and my choices didn't belong to me. I was told that tradition mattered more than my dreams. That is not love. Love does not demand sacrifice through shame." Zuri leaned closer to the camera. "To every woman watching, your hard work is yours. Your happiness is yours. You don't owe anyone your savings, your future, or your peace of mind, no matter what culture or family says. Helping family should come from love, not fear. Your life is not a bargaining chip." She ended with a small but powerful smile. "This isn't just my story. It's our story. We can honor our culture while still honoring ourselves. My money, my choice. And your choice too." Within minutes of posting, the video spread like wildfire. #MyMoneyMyChoice leapt across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, shared by students, single mothers, and working women across Africa. Stories poured in. Women describing parents who demanded their paychecks, cousins who stole inheritances, sisters pressured to give up savings. Celebrities reposted Zuri's video with captions like "Respect her courage" and "This is the conversation Africa needs." News outlets replayed clips of Zuri's heartfelt words on evening broadcasts. Radio shows debated generational expectations. Comment sections flooded with applause and testimonies of women breaking free from old rules. What began as a painful slap had become a spark for a nationwide movement, and Zuri's calm, steady voice was leading the charge. Late one quiet evening, a soft but urgent knock echoed through Zuri's Cape Town apartment. She hesitated for a moment, expecting maybe a delivery or a neighbor, but when she opened the door, her mother stood there, eyes swollen and face pale. Lillian clutched a small handbag to her chest like a shield. Behind her, Ayanda hovered nervously, her usual confidence gone. "Zuri, please," Lillian said in a trembling voice. "Can we talk?" Zuri stepped aside, heart heavy but calm. The same woman who had slapped her in front of hundreds now looked smaller, her posture bent under an invisible weight. Lillian sat on the edge of the couch, twisting her fingers together as Ayanda sank into the chair across from her. For a long moment no one spoke. Finally Lillian broke the silence. "I came to say I'm sorry," she whispered, her eyes glistening. "What I did that night was wrong. I let my pride and fear take over. Relatives have been pressuring me for years, saying I failed as a mother because my younger daughter isn't married. Felt ashamed. And when you refused, Her voice cracked and she covered her face. "I let jealousy take over. You built a life I never had, and instead of being proud, I tried to control you." Ayanda leaned forward, her voice soft. "Zuri, I'm sorry too. I should have spoken up at the engagement. I saw how wrong it was, but I let Mom's words silence me. I was selfish, thinking about my own wedding instead of how hard you worked." Zuri listened, the ache in her chest mixing with a fragile warmth. She reached for a tissue and handed it to her mother. "I hear you," she said gently. "I love you both, but what happened can't happen again. I won't let anyone guilt me into giving up what I've built. My wedding, my savings, my choices, they belong to me." Lillian nodded through her tears. "I understand," she whispered. "I just want to be part of your life again if you'll let me." Zuri squeezed her mother's hand. "You're my family. You always will be. But we need clear boundaries. Love doesn't mean control. Ayanda wiped her eyes and managed a small, hopeful smile. Can I still be your maid of honor? Zuri's lips curved into a soft grin. Only if you promise to keep the champagne flowing and the drama away. The three women shared a shaky laugh, the first sound of healing breaking the heavy silence. The wounds weren't gone, but for the first time, they all felt the possibility of a new kind of family, one built on respect instead of fear. Months later, the sky over Cape Town stretched clear and blue as waves rolled gently against a private stretch of white sand. Soft music floated across the sea breeze, carrying the scent of fresh roses and salt. Zuri stood at the edge of the aisle in a gown of shimmering ivory, the sun catching every crystal bead as if the ocean itself had blessed her day. Around her, guests smiled and whispered, their cameras capturing a celebration that belonged completely to her, funded by the money she had earned and the trust her grandmother had left behind. As the music swelled, Zuri began her walk toward Tay, who waited at the altar in a tailored cream suit, his eyes shining with pride. Each step felt like a victory. She thought of the rooftop slap, the sting on her cheek, the endless nights of work that built her company, and the storm of social media that turned her pain into a movement. What was once a night of humiliation had become the reason she stood stronger today. When they reached each other, Tay took her hands, his voice trembling with emotion. After exchanging vows, Zuri looked into his eyes and spoke the words that had burned in her heart for months. No one can steal the life we build ourselves, she said, her voice clear and steady. The crowd erupted in applause, many wiping away tears. Phones lit up instantly, and within hours her vow spread across social media, paired with photos of the glowing bride against the endless sea. Hashtag no one can steal and hashtag my money my choice trended again, turning Zuri's wedding into more than a ceremony. It became a symbol of love, freedom, and the power of claiming your own life.